Good afternoon. My name is Tristan Garcia Waipook. I'm from San Diego, California, from the Waipook tribe. That's San Pasqual Band of Mission Indians. I'm currently a junior at Kansas Wesleyan University, and I was nominated by my peers to speak to you all today. I want to thank the Department of Education for this incredible honor. Standing here today isn't just about me. It's about the journey, the growth, and the people who helped me keep moving forward when life felt impossible. Before I begin, raise your hand if you ever felt like the world was against you. Keep your hand up if you ever felt like you learned a lesson at that end. You may put your hands down. When I talk about growth, I don't see it as a smooth or easy road. Growth is messy. It's falling down and getting back up, and learning that every challenge carries a lesson. For me, some lessons came the hard way. During my time in community college, football was everything to me. It was my dream, my identity, and my way forward. But one game changed that, and I had an injury and I broke my arm. And I remember sitting there thinking, that's it, my career's over. For a while I felt like that, I felt lost. But a few months later, I got a call, and there was a Kansas number. I answered it, and it was Hope. For a while, and life's funny, redirecting you when you think everything's falling apart. Shortly after, I was given an opportunity to continue my education at this very school, and now I'm able to play the sport that I love. That chance, that second chapter. It's not our I apologize. It made me realize something. It made me realize that even when something ends, it doesn't mean you end. It means something new is beginning. I come from a family where no one went to college before. I'm the first to graduate, and that's something I hold deeply pride of. Not just for myself, but for everyone who came before me. My family works hard and sacrificed a lot and believed that just maybe I could take things a little bit further. But let me be real with you, it wasn't easy. There were times back in community college when I was so broke, I didn't know how to make it through the week. I hustled any way I could, finding small jobs, quick ways to just get enough money just to pay for school and classes. There was one day I'll never forget. During my injury with my broken arm, it was raining, and I still had to change my old tire just to make it home after practice. Moments like this tested me. They made me wonder if it was all worth it, but deep down, I knew those struggles were shaping me into the person I needed to become. In those moments where I felt like the world was stacked against me, I kept reminding myself there's always a lesson behind everything. Sometimes the lesson is patience. Sometimes it's gratitude. And sometimes it's realizing that the struggle is what prepares you for your purpose. As future educators and leaders, that's what we bring into our classroom and communities. The understanding that every student, every person is fighting their own battles. It's not our job to take away the struggle, but to help them see the lesson inside of it. That's where strength and resilience is born. Growth doesn't come with applause. It comes and happens quiet. When no one's watching, when you're going to keep even going when you're tired, or when you refuse to give up on yourself. My journey has taught me that the world isn't really against us. Sometimes it's testing on how much we believe in ourselves, or how much we're willing to grow. So to my community and to anyone who's ever felt life is pushing too hard, remember this. You're not being punished. You're being prepared. You're not being stopped. You're being shaped. Every setback is an opportunity to come back stronger and more focused and more thankful. And to my peers, my professors, and my family, thank you for believing in me even when I didn't. Because of you, I'm standing here today not just as a student, but as a proof that growth is possible for anyone who refuses to give up. Before I wrap this up, when it feels like the world is against you, stop and breathe. You're not being buried. You're being planted. And one day you'll realize that every storm has its lesson behind it. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Sarah. I'm a senior here at KW, like Hannah said. I'm super thankful to be here today, and if you're wondering, I broke my thumb. We'll just get that out of the way. That's why I have cast on. I'm really excited to be here and just talk about what I'm super passionate about, and that is women in law. So we'll just get right into it. I just want to start with some statistics for you guys. So from 1950 to 1970, women made up only 3% of lawyers, living up to the mantra of truly it's a man's world. While the tides have not completely turned, they are shifting with a current figure of 490,000 female attorneys in the United States, making up now 38% of the attorney population. How can I be sure, though, that the tides are turning? The number of law school enrollment won't lie to you. In 1970, women made up only 9% of law school enrollment, and by 2016, women outnumbered men in law schools across the United States. Women in law is growing, and next year I get to add myself to it. Yeah. But before me, there were many female trailblazers that paved the way for me to be able to do what I'm doing today. The paths forged by Arabella Mansfield, Florence Allen, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg are foundational to the experience of female law students today, transforming the legal profession from a male-only domain into one increasingly defined by gender equality. Mansfield shattered the initial barrier in 1869 by becoming the first woman admitted to the bar in the United States, successfully challenging an Iowa statute that limited the practice of law to men. Her victory legally opened the door for women to pursue careers in law. Decades later, Allen broke the judicial glass ceilings, becoming the first woman elected to a state Supreme Court in Ohio in 1922, and the first woman appointed to a federal appellate court, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit, in 1934. Her judicial service proved women could excel at the highest levels of legal interpretation and leadership. Finally, Ginsburg spent her career as a litigator and later as a Supreme Court justice in the United States, systematically dismantling sex-based discrimination through law. Her tireless advocacy fundamentally changed the constitutional understanding of gender equality, ensuring that the legal curriculum and the profession itself were no longer based on archaic gender distinctions. Together, these women created the essential precedent of access, authority, and equality that now allows female law students like myself to enter classrooms and careers with the expectations of equal opportunity. So how did I get here? How did I get to law? Looking back at freshman me, honestly not ready to be an attorney, not fit. And that's where my time at KW comes into play. I'm so thankful for every opportunity and life experience that I have had that has shaped me into the person that I am right now. Every hill and every valley has shaped me into the person and has taught me something about myself along the way. My sophomore year, I made it a point to get out of my comfort zone, and that is where many of the items on my resume originate. My captainship has taught me not only how to be a leader, but also how to be a caretaker. It has taught me how to confront with grace and lead with love. It has shown me how to apply efficient problem solving with matters inside and outside of the gym, and later in my life, inside and outside of the courtroom. My presidencies have taught me how to actively listen and taught me the art of organized leadership and effective communication. And finally, my mentorships have taught me to be dependable, patient, and lead by example. But these are highs, and we must grow through our valleys as well. In the spring of my freshman year, I experienced the deepest valley I've ever found myself in, and I questioned for years why I had to experience that day. But it was never about the why. It was always about the what for. It was for the incredible ability I have now to empathize with 10 times more females across the world, and I have so much gratitude for that. I have so much gratitude for the purpose that God has written on my heart, and God will use your lows for good, and this is my exact testimony to that. Aside from the leadership roles and opportunities that I've had to grow, I want to talk about several prominent women that have had astounding impacts on me in the last 4 years at KW. My coaches, Jess and Skylar, are two of the most vital people not only in my time at KW, but in my life. They've been with me, teaching me, showing me tough love when I needed it, but showing me grace when I needed that even more. Annie Boswell is just one of those people that you can't even put into words. But to know her is to truly love her and be so blessed by her. She has walked with me as I place Jesus at the cornerstone of my life, and my faith is the basis behind everything that I do. Kendra Pratt has taught me how to stay sharp in harsh moments inside and outside of the classroom, and she's been my biggest cheerleader in the classroom over my years here. Dr. Kelly Moore has shown me the importance of vulnerability in relationships with others, how it is more beneficial to face your truths rather than to hide from them. And my teammates. I've been part of the volleyball program for 4 years now, and every teammate I've had over those 4 years have had a tremendous hand in my story. Ruth Bader Ginsburg once said, "Fight for the things you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you." I received my acceptance into Mizzou Law on September 12th, 10 days after submitting my application. I felt the most insane mixture of joy and shock, and it's a moment for you I can't even put into words. I remember jumping out of my seat and answering the phone, seeing that I was from Columbia, and 2 minutes later I was in. Sorry. I felt a lot of relief, let's be real. Law is not what you see on TV. It's not all glamour, and it's not getting that perfect piece of evidence right when you need it in your trial. I wish it was. It's reading and long days and draining days and lots of stories and lots of people that need you. It's research and looking at detail after detail of the same case and then looking at those same details again from a different perspective and then maybe another perspective. But you get the idea. Law is a rigorous battle, and it's one I plan to fight in for the rest of my life. I'm going to close with you by sharing with you the last paragraph of my personal statement that I submitted to Mizzou and all my other law schools. It comes the closest to putting into the passion that I feel for this field into words. So what is my big picture? What is my why? I am choosing law because of my passion, heart, and drive for others and to aid them through their hardships. I want to be an attorney because I want to be able to be someone's front line. Every person holds the right to a fair fight, and every story matters. In all, I am choosing to pursue law because of my passion for people and my innate sense of justice. Simply, my why is people. It's about those who have shaped me in my past and about those who I hope to empower in my future. It's about showing others how willing I am to stick out my neck for them. It's about their sense of comfort and guidance, and it's about walking in the path that God has led me to. The legal field is about people, and it will always center around that for me. We have all had our moments of vulnerability, and we have all needed an anchor. I want to be an anchor for people. There are so many people in the world who have felt the rain. They deserve someone to hold an umbrella over their head and lead them to the sun.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry if I stutter, I'm really nervous right now, but we're gonna get through it. My name is Takara Colterman, and I'm majoring in social work and psychology. These two fields might sound like a study of people, but to me, they're really about learning how to understand, support, and empower others, and how to grow as a person myself. Before I even stepped foot in a college classroom, I was learning about people in a different kind of setting, on the softball field. Softball has been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. What started as just something fun to do after school has turned into one of the most meaningful parts of my life and my identity. When I was younger, I loved the competition, the feeling of connecting with the ball, sliding into home, and celebrating with my teammates after a win. But as I grow older, softball becomes about much more than the game itself. It becomes a place where I learn about teamwork, leadership, and the power of connection. As I take on the leadership roles, I realize that being a leader is not just about performance or ensuing instructions. It's about understanding people. Every teammate has their own story, their own struggles, and their own motivation for being there. Some are driven by competition, some are looking for belonging, some are just trying to make it through a hard week. Being in that leadership position pushes me to pay attention, to really notice people. I start to recognize when someone's body language changes, or if their energy is just off, or when they need encouragement instead of a critique. I learned that leadership is about listening just as much as about speaking. Those moments, seeing people light up after a few words of support after watching the team come together after a tough practice, show me what I truly love, helping people feel seen and valued. And that realization led me to social work and psychology. In psychology, I explore how people think, feel, and act, the invisible patterns that shape behavior and emotion. It's fascinating to learn how much our experiences, relationships, and environments influence who we become. In social work, I learned how to turn that understanding into action. Social work is about applying empathy and knowledge to make a real change, helping individuals and communities overcome barriers, find their strengths, and move toward stability and growth. Together, these fields give me a powerful lens through which to see the world. They remind me that every person's story matters, and that even small acts of understanding can make a big difference. Part of why I chose this path also comes from my very own experiences growing up. I come from a family where emotions aren't really openly discussed. We love each other deeply, but vulnerability and mental health aren't really a part of our conversations. Like many families, we handle those challenges quietly. We push through and move on. But as I get older, I notice how silence can build walls. I see how unspoken emotions can turn into stress or conflict. I see how people carry things they don't know how to express. And I realize that pretending everything's fine doesn't make the pain go away, it only hides it. That realization changes me. I don't want to be someone who avoids emotion or connection. I want to be someone who helps others feel safe enough to open up. That's why I chose these majors, not because they're easy, but because they reflect the kind of person I want to be. Social work and psychology allow me to use empathy and understanding to create space for others to heal, to be heard, and to grow. My leadership role in softball reinforces those lessons every single day. Leadership on the field isn't about control, it's about trust. It's about creating an environment where everyone feels supported enough to take risks and make mistakes without fear. There are days when our team is tired and stressed, especially recently. Days when we've had long classes, heavy assignments, and still have to show up are the best and give our best practice. On those days, being a leader means recognizing when people need motivation and when they need grace. Sometimes it means pushing them to stay focused. Other times it means reminding someone that one bad game doesn't define them. And sometimes it just means listening. Those experiences teach me that leadership and empathy are deeply connected. You can't effectively lead people if you don't understand them. And you can't understand people unless you're willing to listen. That's also what makes me love social work and psychology. They're both grounded in the belief that listening is powerful, that people don't need to be fixed, they need to be understood. When I'm studying theories on motivation or emotional development in class, I see them play out on the field. When we talk about coping mechanisms, I understand how my teammates handle pressure and how I handle frustration after a loss. When I learn about resilience, I think about every time our team comes back from a defeat stronger than before. Softball gives me a living, breathing example of everything I'm learning. And in return, my studies help me become a better leader and teammate. One of my favorite parts about psychology is understanding why people do what they do, even when it doesn't make sense from the outside. And one of my favorite parts of social work is learning to meet people where they are, to help them build on their strengths rather than focus on their flaws. That's something I practice daily on my team. When someone's struggling at the plate, it's easy to point out what they're doing wrong. But real leadership means seeing beyond the mistake and reminding them of what they're capable of. It's the same in life. People don't grow from criticism alone. They grow from encouragement, belief, and compassion. Through softball, I also learn about balance and resilience, two qualities to both social work and psychology. Balancing school, practices, games, and leadership responsibilities isn't always easy. There are times when I'm exhausted or overwhelmed, but I remind myself that this is what growth feels like. I'm constantly learning how to manage my time, communicate under pressure, and support others when I'm struggling myself. These lessons prepare me for the kind of work I'll do after college. That work requires emotional strength, patience, and empathy. As I look toward the future, I imagine using everything I'm learning, not just in the classroom, but in the field to make an impact. I want to work with young people, especially those who feel unseen or misunderstood. I want to help them develop coping skills, self-worth, and a sense of belonging. I want to be the person who listens, encourages, and reminds them of their struggles don't define them. Their resilience does. Softball teaches me that leadership is about showing up for others. Psychology teaches me that understanding is the foundation of change. Social work teaches me that compassion can transform lives. Together, they shape how I see the world and how I plan to make a difference in it. So when people ask me why I chose social work and psychology, I tell them it's because I believe in people. I believe in second chances, in growth, and in power of empathy. I believe that change happens not just through big moments, but through everyday interactions, through the way we treat others, and the way we listen, and the way we lead. And when I think about my journey from the softball field to the classroom and back again, I see those beliefs come together. That's what makes me proud, not just to be an athlete or a student, but someone who leads with heart, who studies with purpose, and who's determined to turn understanding into action. Thank you.
Hi guys, thank you so much for being here today to support students, most importantly. I know there's a lot of energy on campus. There's football, basketball, volleyball games, so thank you for taking time out of your day to be here for this. This is just as important as any of those. So there's no better feeling than speaking to a room full of people that share a common interest, KWU. I love this university and the environment it's fostered, so once again, thank you for allowing me to tell part of my story today. No one truly understands what this place has done for me like you guys do. My name is Sydney Mitchell, and this is my final semester here at Kansas Wesleyan. I'm majoring in English, minoring in sociology and communications, and I'm also a pre-law student. Wow! I'm also one of the founders of the KWU NAACP chapter. My story today is about personal transformation from a coyote to a catalyst for change. This place has shaped me into things I never dreamed I could be: an athlete, a scholar, an activist, and a leader. This transformation was powered by the concept we all know, the power of and. The idea that you can be a student and an athlete, a scholar and a community leader. For me, activism was my and it quickly became my why. To be perfectly honest with you, starting an organization on Kansas Wesleyan campus was not in my 4-year plan. It was very much accidental. Before coming to KWU, I came from a community that was quite opposite of this one. For 12 years in middle and high school, I was just another face, always pointed out for having curly hair and being the only black person in the room that I walked into. But here at Kansas Wesleyan, that all changed. Over my 4 years, the inclusive and supportive community here has been my anchor. The culture and care and encouragement made me feel valued, and it eventually gave me the confidence to take on important leadership roles that I never thought I would, a feeling that I'd never felt before. My first and was MCSU, the Multicultural Student Union, and I quickly love it, becoming the vice president my sophomore year. It was my mentor, Dr. Alan Smith, who encouraged me to join the Salina NAACP branch. I loved everything about it, the mission, the values, and the social justice that it stood for. For those of you that may not know, the NAACP stands for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. It was founded in 1909 and remains the largest and most widely recognized civil rights organization in America to date. It's everything that I stood for in one organization. One day, the president of the Salina NAACP, Dr. Alan Smith, approached me and asked if I would be interested in serving as the Kansas State Youth and College President. I was reluctant at first because I'd never been a leader. I'd always just been the girl in the back of the classroom. And he saw in me something that I'd never seen in myself. He assured me that I had every single tool and every single capability to lead fiercely, and I took the leap. After this, I decided to aid in the startup of the first NAACP chapter here on Kansas Wesleyan's campus, with the help of my Vice President, Anaya Bonner. Even though we are a small and establishing chapter, this organization has been a passport to incredible opportunities for me and for other Kansas Wesleyan students. As the Kansas State Youth and College NAACP president, I've attended state meetings in Wichita and Kansas City. We took a group of students to the Kansas State Capitol for Black Legislative Day, and I was even invited back to the state capitol to speak on a literacy panel. I got the opportunity to visit Washington, D.C. and the White House, and 2 of us students got the opportunity to represent our chapter at the National Convention in Las Vegas, Nevada. We sat in rooms and listened to some of the most incredible activists, scholars, and leaders in the country. The president was even there. That was amazing to me. Right here at home, I've been asked to speak at many community and campus events for Black History Month, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and Women's History Month. These experiences have significantly shaped my professional network and expanded it, and launched my career path in ways I never could have imagined. When I came into college, I wanted to be an English teacher, and now I'm on my path to law. I just completed my first law school application this week. This school has proved to me that even a small club on this campus can plug into a massive network of opportunity for students. And as I transition from student to alumna, I want to thank you for creating a community that doesn't just enroll students, but it actively sees potential within them. My journey has taught me that the biggest difference we make is when our community invests in our students. When you invest, students will take the leap. They will travel to Washington, D.C. They will sit in important courtrooms. They will speak on panels, and they will build important organizations like the NAACP. We started this chapter not to add chaos, but to fulfill the highest calling of the Kansas Wesleyan mission. The mission of Kansas Wesleyan is to promote and integrate academic excellence, spiritual development, personal well-being, and social responsibility. Our work is the living embodiment of this mission. The NAACP promotes academic excellence by focusing on achievement, supports personal well-being by creating an inclusive space, and fulfills social responsibility by driving justice and change. I want to thank you all for believing in the students who are here right now. Because of your commitment, the potential you saw in me turned a coyote into a catalyst. And now the true meaning of the power of and, the promise that our mission is always ongoing, always growing, and always in action. Thank you guys for everything you've done, and thank you for trusting the Coyotes to keep building a better world. Roll Yotes forever.
Hello everybody, my name is Elijah Rosano. I'm a junior here at Kansas Wesleyan and I'm studying physics. I'm here to represent the physics department, but I'm mostly going to be talking about the STEM club. So, okay, it does not like that. Excuse everyone. All right, let's, okay, there we go. So for those of us who don't know, STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. The idea of the STEM club is that we had many former clubs, the physics club, the math club, that were sort of, that's fallen behind over past years. And so when I came to campus, I thought, well, why don't we centralize all of our science efforts into one big cohesive STEM club? Our aim is to centralize our science efforts here in school, initiatives, events, attractions, for both students and the community. And so some of the past things that we've done before is, for example, our very famous liquid nitrogen ice cream social, which we're actually doing tomorrow. And the idea is we're making ice cream out of liquid nitrogen. It's a very cool effect. Students really like it. People come and enjoy ice cream. And it's a really cool science thing that people can be a part of. We've also participated in the Trunk or Treat last year. We have a cool party every December called the Quantum Christmas Karaoke Night, where I bring out a karaoke box and students get to de-stress. The idea is that they de-stress before finals. It's the night before finals, so they let go of all that stress. They eat, they sing, and it's a very fun time for all of us. But we also do the Women in STEM Luncheon. Every February is International Women in STEM Day, so we recognize those who are women in STEM. They're invited to a luncheon. We have a guest speaker who talks about their research on their special topic. And then we have Pi Day. So on Pi Day, which is March 14th, Pi stands for 3.14159. And so Pi Day, we give out Pi students. That's another cool thing that people can be a part of. One really cool thing that we've done here at the STEM Club is that we've introduced robotics to Kansas Wesleyan. The KW STEM Club is proud to host the Mecha Coyotes, Kansas Wesleyan's first ever collegiate combat robotics team. Combat robotics involves you building a robot to fight other robots. And it's a battle to the death. It's a gladiator match. It's a test of your engineering skills and design and your science, and putting it to a competition style that everybody can be a part of and enjoy. The team is made up of several students from different backgrounds, so math, physics, and even business. One fond memory that I had with going into competition, which is based in Kansas City, we would go up against bigger schools like KU and K-State. And they would go up to us and they would go, which school are you from? And I said, oh, I'm from Kansas Wesleyan. And they're like, oh, puzzled. And they're like, where's that? And so I have to explain, we're a liberal arts college, we're a small school in Salina, Kansas. And what that goes to show is that it really doesn't matter, your degree, right? We're showcasing the power of and by showing us, here's a bunch of physics and math and business students building this really cool robot, and it's something that we can pull off, with a knowledge that we have. And so here I have Rapture. It's a 15-pound robot with a 2.5 blade that spins, and that's its main weapon. To showcase how that event came to be, here's a little short
Yo, you want to see
video.
something cool? No? Well, I'm gonna do it anyway. Yo, you wanna...
So the robot ended up in a bucket. But it was still a resounding success because as you saw at the end of that clip, that was a grudge match between Missouri S&T. And they were cheering the name, Rapture, Rapture, Rapture. Because part of a combat robotics competition is not only the showcasing of engineering skills and design, but it's also putting up a good show. It's a gladiator tournament. And so in that aspect, I would say we are a resounding success. We did not go empty-handed though. We did win the Best Engineering Documentation Award, which was the first time a school that wasn't Missouri S&T won. So. On top of that, though, we do also host a high school-based robotics team, the RoboYotes. KLU STEM Club is a proud partner of the KLU RoboYotes program, and they're high school-based. And they're not combat robotics, they're more team and objective-based, but they're a high school team made up of high school students from around the Salina area. So the idea is that they get to engage in STEM, but also be exposed to Kansas Wesleyan and campus atmosphere. On engagement and impact, we are very proud to be committed to different partnerships and local organizations in Salina and other clubs in school. We are very grateful to our corporate sponsors, some of which include the Greater Salina Community Foundation, the Gene Haas Foundation for different science initiatives that we've done around school and on the community. And we are always looking for the future. We are looking towards the future. We at the physics department are always offering different ways for students to express themselves beyond the classroom and integrating their knowledge that they may not be learning in the classroom and providing ways for community outreach in addition to our academics and different scientific endeavors. Thank you.
Hi guys, I'm Ryan Warren. I'm a senior this year, but technically a junior because I'm graduating early. I am majoring in biomedical chemistry. Whenever I first got asked to speak at this event, I was immediately excited with opportunity. But then the realization set in that I had to pick a topic that could be anything from the last 3 years of being here. If you know anything about me, you would know I'm very detail-oriented. So needless to say, deciding what message I wanted to convey was the most time-consuming task of this entire process. So today, I've decided just to have a conversation with you about my experiences and the most important life lesson I have learned throughout my academic journey here. So let's start from the beginning. When I was a kid, my mom sometimes would take me to work with her at our local hospital clinic, where she worked as an internal medicine nurse. While she went about her shift, I was also doing my work, which consisted of me spinning in her chair, coloring with her highlighters, asking her coworkers a million questions, and obviously helping the doctors read the X-ray films. Since then, I have never questioned that I was meant to be a healthcare worker. Although that vision has evolved over the years, it comes back to the deep-rooted fact I want to help others in a way they can't help themselves, the same way I saw demonstrated in the clinic all those years ago. Now, as a junior in college, I am on a pre-medical track with the intentions of becoming a physician. Although this is easier said than done, this track requires a satisfactory score on a 7.5-hour entrance exam, a multitude of shadowing hours and work experience, plenty of volunteering participation, a high undergraduate GPA, letters of recommendation, an application essay, and on top of all of that, multiple rounds of interviews. So if this list sounds overwhelming to listen to, imagine trying to fit that in between a regular class schedule and playing a sport at this university. All of this to say, my goal is not to deter you or complain about the track that leads to becoming a doctor. but simply to say that although there are multiple boxes that need to be checked to get into medical school, there are infinite pathways to get there. I want to be clear that this speech is not just for my pre-med students, but can be applied to everyone's life in some way. What I'm trying to get at is it is more important to find meaningful experiences that align with who you are as a person, rather than just checking off these imaginary boxes or just doing something to add to your resume, which I know everyone's heard too many times. Throughout my high school and college, I have felt as though it was pushed on me to try and obtain more and more accomplishments, jobs, positions, anything that could potentially boost my resume. So by nature, I've always been an overachiever or even try hard. So in high school, I wore the identity of being a 3-sport athlete, being the top of my class academically, being a member of NHS, working multiple jobs, and the list goes on, but you get the point. When I got to college, it was a chance to restart and allow myself to evaluate my priorities. But with my type A personality, I had already had an endless mental checklist of everything I must do to get into medical school. And at this point, mind you, I'm 3 years away from even applying to medical school. So I've always been someone who loves to be involved, but I allowed myself to focus more on joining clubs and finding leadership positions around campus that filled my cup in a way that wasn't necessary. I fell into clubs that I had no interest in being a part of and found myself at volunteering events that bored me. That is how the rest of my freshman year went, a constant cycle of doing things to check off the boxes. It was only after the summer going into my sophomore year that I realized how toxic this trend had become. That summer, I had landed 2 amazing jobs that were the perfect medical school jobs. I was given the opportunity to be a pharmacy technician and then a medical assistant and phlebotomist at one of my local clinics back home. I was so wrapped up in this that I sacrificed being a counselor at the church camp I had been attending and counseling at since I was 9 years old. I was consumed in the vision of what my future might look like that I gave up one of the 2 weeks that I get to spend at camp every year to be able to say on my medical school application that I worked maybe 40 extra hours. I was willing to give up my favorite part of my year that brings me the most purpose in hopes of what could be in my future. Over the months following this decision, I had realized I was prioritizing experiences that were meaningless and unimpactful for me. Over the last year, I have strived to ensure that every day is spent doing something that is important to me. Although I must admit, I have not gotten any better about stretching myself too thin. I have found experiences, though, that are worthwhile of my time and effort. And not only that, but surrounded myself with a community of people that share this common ideal. So please, if you get anything out of this, don't do things just because that's what you think your medical school interviewers want to see, or your potential employer might expect, or whatever that looks like in your stage of life. Don't volunteer at the animal shelter if you don't like animals. Find the experiences that interest and excite you. Whether that be starting your own brand, traveling the world, going on a mission trip, or working on your physical health. Yes, there is a real laundry list of items that need completed for anything worth doing in life, especially for me, medical school. But that doesn't mean those activities can't be something you're passionate about. So seek the activities that inspire you and don't burn you out. Everyone has a different story, so don't let the desire to build a resume and check off all of these boxes that you've made up for yourself distract you from discovering and pursuing what is truly meaningful to you. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. As she said, my name is Sebastian Welter. I'm going to be telling you guys a little bit about what a summer REU in supramolecular chemistry is like at Kansas State University. And so, beginning, what is an REU? As you all may or may not know, it is a research experience for undergraduates, and it is partially or mostly funded by the National Science Foundation. So I spent 10 weeks doing full-time real research on unsolved scientific problems. And many of these are highly competitive, but I only applied to K-State and took a leap of faith, and I ended up getting in. So, I mean, I was extremely elated, and it was a wonderful opportunity. And so what is it like at an REU? When you sign up for an REU, you get a choice of several different professors that you want to do research under. And I chose the Ackroyd Research Group because I was really interested in crystal engineering and determining, how are crystals formed and what does their molecular architecture look like. My mentor, Dr. Ackroy, and my graduate student mentor were both excellent individuals for this. And it's more than just lab work. We had some weekly seminars on scientific ethics, how do you conduct yourself in the lab and how do you accurately document what you do in the lab. And also we had seminars on communications and also career development. And besides just lab work as well, the cohort experience. That's the most important part. Getting to hang out with like-minded individuals, play card games endlessly for many, many hours. That was unbelievable. I got actually quite nauseous playing so many card games. And then many dinners. Most Sundays we spent that time having dinner together and collaborating, getting to know each other better, and also being able to bounce ideas off of each other about what we're doing in the lab. And also we went to Wamego, Kansas, has Boomtown, USA, and it was an excellent time. I've never seen so many wonderful fireworks. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what the importance of crystal structure is, and then I'll talk about what I did. So some of you may know in 1998, or in the 1990s, there was an HIV drug called ritonavir. And the crystal form of a drug impacts its properties, its solubility, its stability. And so what ended up happening was a couple years after they started production, a new crystal structure had emerged that had higher stability, which is good. However, the solubility in the body decreased. And they had to pull this compound from the shelves because it no longer worked, which cost them millions and millions of dollars. And so this shows why controlling the crystal structure is critical to the effectivity of a drug. So my specific target, favipiravir, is an antiviral drug. It gained its popularity during the COVID-19 pandemic in East Asian countries, and it can exist in two forms. Now, I'm not going to get too into depth about that because, it took me a while to figure it out. But this impacts the way it forms its crystal, or the way its solubility and stability is impacted as a result of that. And so this is uncharted territory, and it makes the crystal structure unpredictable, which is of course the one thing we're trying to control. So what we do is we pair the drug with a safe molecular chaperone. These are things like 4-ABA, 2-HBA, or tromethamine. I know those mean nothing to you. But they are important in allowing us to control which form or which crystal structure appears and the solubility and stability of those compounds. And so I had a major breakthrough. I've never seen things like this ever in my life, and that's why we do this research. But so I paired each of my compounds. Now I'm going to go back one slide. You see at the bottom there's the exchange between the two forms. Now, on a specific molecule, you can alternate between several different atoms. You have a hydrogen atom, or you have halogen atoms, like bromine, chlorine, or fluorine. Now, this drug has a fluorine attached to that molecule, and my goal was to swap that fluorine out with a hydrogen, a bromine, or a chlorine. Now, those affect the stability of the compound in many different ways. Now, I'm going to go back, or go forward, into seeing that graph. As you can see on some of those lines that are very high, there is one particular point here that I'll show. This one in particular, that's a very thermally stable compound. So one of the assumptions we might make, yet to be tested, is that compound is less effective in the body. So just to kind of contextualize that, is that we had over 45 different compounds that each had unique solubility and stability properties, which is very important because that allows us to then tell these pharmaceutical industries that, hey, you have a greater, you might have better outcomes with this specific combination. I'll leave it at that. So on the right, you can see two different crystal structures. This is just one example for one of the compounds I was working on. And one is a trihydrate, or 3 water molecules, and a dihydrate, 2 water molecules. Those each form their own crystal structure. And so some of those important things allow us to then detect the solubility and stability. But, here we go. What the main takeaway, or what this experience meant, regardless of all the lab work, is that the rational design of important antiviral drugs are crucial in their effectivity. And even more important is the hands-on experience with scientific instrumentation that Kansas Wesleyan just simply doesn't have. Being able to use that machinery was just a wonder. And also I presented research, as was mentioned at ACS, the Midwestern Regional Meeting in Columbia, Missouri. That was an excellent time to be able to see what everybody else in this field is doing. And also, it solidified my passion for research and continuation of a PhD. So as I go on to apply to several of these different places, Missouri will certainly be one of them, as well as Kansas State. So I thank you all for coming out here and being able to hear us all. And
Great job!